At 9:33 p.m. Eastern on May 1st, yesterday, CoinDesk published the finalized stablecoin yield compromise text for the Clarity Act. Within minutes, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong posted 2 words on social media: mark it up. Not progress, not promising, not we're getting closer, mark it up. The man who pulled Coinbase's support from a January markup, destroying what should have been the first vote, just publicly told the Senate Banking Committee the bill is ready. Galaxy Digital's Alex Thorn published his analysis within the hour. The release of the yield text suggests that Senate Banking will schedule markup imminently, as early as the week of May 11th. That is 9 days from now. The last major obstacle to the Clarity Act markup was removed yesterday at 9 p.m. Here is why May 1st's stablecoin yield deal is structurally different from every other progress announcement this bill has produced. The January 14th markup collapsed for one specific reason. Coinbase withdrew support after the proposed yield language would have effectively banned crypto reward programs entirely. The banking lobby had successfully framed stablecoin rewards as deposit equivalent yield, meaning if you earned anything by holding USDC or RLUSD, it would be treated the same as earning interest at a bank and therefore prohibited. The May 1st compromise text draws a precise legal line. Passive yield, earnings from simply holding stablecoin reserves, is prohibited. Activity-based rewards, earnings tied to actual platform usage, payments made, transfers completed, are explicitly protected. The White House's own Council of Economic Advisors published an academic review finding no evidence that stablecoin rewards cause deposit flight from traditional banks. That academic finding gave the White House the political cover to support the compromise without appearing to side with crypto over banks. Coinbase Chief Policy Officer Faryar Shirzad stated publicly, "Much of this debate was based on imagined risks, not real evidence." Senator Tillis confirmed stablecoin yield concerns largely addressed. Senator Lummis, almost 99% sorted out. Senator Moreno expects it to get done by end of May. Brian Armstrong, mark it up. So here is the question that should immediately follow the stablecoin yield breakthrough. If the largest obstacle to markup is resolved, why is Polymarket still pricing passage at 46%? And why is Alex Thorn, one of the most credible legislative analysts in the entire crypto space, warning that he expects banks to increase their opposition efforts despite the compromise? The answer reveals exactly what is still unresolved, and understanding it is the difference between positioning based on the breakthrough and positioning based on a complete picture. That's what we're building right now. This is XRP News Flow Signals. We track the bill text releases, the Polymarket mechanics, the remaining obstacles by name and resolution status, and we map them to XRP's price structure. Data, not narrative. Let's get into it. Let's map every remaining obstacle with its current resolution status, because this is where most coverage stops being useful. Obstacle 1, stablecoin yield. Status, resolved as of May 1st. The Tillis Alsobrooks compromise text is now public. Passive yield, banned. Activity-based rewards, protected. Coinbase, endorsed. Regulatory oversight, new disclosure regime and permissible reward activities list. Banking lobby argument, undermined by White House CEA academic review. Resolution, complete. Markup can proceed on this issue. Obstacle 2, DeFi developer protections. Status, substantially resolved. Senator Tillis raised concerns that provisions protecting software developers from criminal liability under the 1960 federal statute create enforcement blind spots for money laundering and terrorism financing. Senator Lummis responded the same day. "We've made significant progress on safeguards for non-controlling developers with respect to money transmitting laws, and I hope to have more soon." Tillis is generally in support of Lummis's current approach. This issue is in language refinement, not substantive dispute. Resolution, on track, not blocking markup. Obstacle 3, ethics language. Status, unresolved. 7 Senate Democrats, led by Senators Schiff and Gallego, are conditioning their votes on language preventing White House officials from profiting off crypto interests, targeting the Trump family's World Liberty Financial, USD1, and meme coins. Senator Tillis has also separately demanded an ethics provision restricting presidential family crypto activities. This is the one remaining substantive political obstacle. Here is why it matters for the markup timing. Republicans on the Senate Banking Committee hold 12 of 22 seats. If they secure 13 Republican votes, Tim Scott's stated target, they can advance the bill on party lines without any Democratic support. The ethics language is what determines whether Democrats join, and whether Republican holdouts like Tillis accept the current bill without that language. Resolution, in active negotiation, not resolved. Not blocking the markup itself, but affecting the floor vote math. The practical path. Markup. Second week of May, as early as May 11th. Committee vote. Party line 13 Republicans if necessary. Senate floor. 60-vote threshold requires some Democratic support. Presidential signature. By June, per Senator Lummis's timeline. Senator Moreno. End of May. But here's what that timeline means specifically for the institutional deployment chain. And this is the part that most analysis is treating as a future story when it is actually an already built infrastructure waiting for one switch. That's next. This is the detail that compresses the post-passage timeline in a way that most XRP coverage has not explained precisely. SEC Chair Paul Atkins confirmed at Bitcoin 2026, the SEC and CFTC have built joint implementation infrastructure called Project Crypto that is ready to enforce the bill the moment Congress acts. For historical context, the Dodd-Frank Act, passed after 2008, took over 3 years to implement. Europe's MiCA framework took over a year and a half. Both were delayed because regulators built the enforcement machinery after the law was signed. Project Crypto inverts that sequence entirely. The rules are drafted, the classification frameworks are built, the interagency coordination protocols are established, the digital asset market taxonomy is defined. When the president signs the Clarity Act, regulatory certainty does not arrive in 18 months, it arrives in weeks. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, SEC Chair Paul Atkins, and White House crypto advisor Patrick Witt all aligned publicly on April 9th, unprecedented interagency coordination, to ensure that the rulemaking process begins immediately at signing. For institutional compliance departments, the difference between bill signed with 18-month implementation and bill signed with Project Crypto ready now is the difference between capital deployment in 2028 and capital deployment in Q3 2026. That compression is why Patrick Witt described passage as the industry taking off like a rocket ship. He is describing a deployment velocity that no previous financial regulation has ever produced. And that brings us to the part most channels won't say directly, because it requires being honest about the specific political math that determines whether the ethics standoff actually blocks the floor vote or becomes manageable at the 60-vote threshold. That's next. Polymarket odds, 46%, down from 82% in February. Here is what Polymarket is actually measuring, and what it is not measuring. Polymarket is measuring the probability of passage by a specific date. It is pricing in 2 distinct risks. Risk 1, the markup doesn't happen before the August recess. Risk 2, the markup happens but the bill fails the 60-vote Senate threshold. As of yesterday's stablecoin yield deal and Tillis's markup request, Risk 1 has materially declined. The markup is now scheduled for as early as May 11. Risk 2, the 60-vote floor threshold, is where the ethics language matters. The bill needs 7 Democratic votes beyond the Republican bloc. But here's the political dynamic most analysis is missing. The Fair Shake PAC holds $193 million in political consequence. Senator Lummis has stated directly, if Democrats block the bill on the floor, the cannon targets the Democrats who blocked it. The Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, followed exactly this pattern. Democrats resisted, conditions were added, then it passed 68-30. The final Senate vote included 16 Democratic votes, twice the minimum needed. The question is not whether Democrats will ultimately support this bill. They voted for Genius Act in large numbers. The question is whether the ethics language can be resolved in a way that gives Democratic holdouts political cover to vote yes without explicitly targeting the Trump family. Sander Lutz, White House correspondent at Decrypt Media, framed the accountability structure precisely. If the Clarity Act fails to pass, it could trigger political fallout over who bears responsibility, particularly as crypto-related political spending has surged. No senator wants to be the reason $193 million in Fair Shake money runs against them in the midterms. That is the political gravity pulling every holdout toward yes. If this level of legislative analysis, the bill text, the Polymarket mechanics, the political accountability math, is what you want every week, subscribe to XRP News Flow Signals right now. We cover the full picture, not just the headlines. The subscribe button is right there. Join us. Let's map the institutional deployment sequence precisely, not as a narrative, but as a mechanical chain. Step 1, the statutory certainty event. The moment the president signs, XRP's commodity classification under CFTC jurisdiction becomes permanent federal statute. No future SEC administration can reverse it with a memo. No future agency guidance can undo it. It requires an act of Congress to change. Every institutional compliance team that has been holding XRP allocation decisions at the pending statutory certainty threshold receives the legal certainty they require. Those allocations activate simultaneously. Step 2. The investment mandate language changes. Most institutional investment mandates specify that portfolio assets must fall within regulatory categories defined by permanent federal statute. The March 17th interpretive release does not satisfy that language. The Clarity Act does. Pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, assets under management totaling $147 trillion globally, whose mandates exclude crypto assets by current regulatory status, can begin revising those mandates. That process takes months, not years, and it begins the day the bill is signed. Step 3. The BlackRock commercial threshold. Current XRP ETF assets, approximately $1 billion. The documented commercial threshold for BlackRock's product committee to approve an XRP ETF filing, approximately $3 billion. Standard Chartered's projected post-Clarity Act ETF inflows, $4 to $8 billion. At $4 billion in net new inflows, total XRP ETF assets exceed $5 billion, surpassing BlackRock's threshold. Standard Chartered's near-term XRP price target, $2.80. Their 2030 target, $28. Exchange reserves, 2.6 billion tokens. ETF custody already, 769 million tokens locked. At $5 billion in ETF AUM, ETFs alone would hold 2.5 billion tokens, against 2.6 billion on exchanges. That supply math is not speculation. It is arithmetic applied to documented data. Here is where everything stands as of May 2nd, 2026. Yesterday, at 9:33 p.m. Eastern, CoinDesk published the finalized stablecoin yield compromise text. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. Mark it up. Galaxy Digital's Alex Thorn. Markup as early as the week of May 11th. What is resolved? Stablecoin yield. The single largest obstacle since January. DeFi developer protections. Language refinement. Tillis. Generally in support. Republican vote count. Senator Tim Scott has secured Tillis and others. 13 of 13 Republicans is the stated target. What remains? Ethics language. 7 Democratic holdouts. Politically complex, not substantively blocking markup. Senate floor. 60-vote threshold requires 7 Democratic votes. Pattern from Genius Act. Democrats resistant until passage was inevitable, then 16 Democratic votes on final floor vote. The window. Markup. As early as May 11th. Senate floor. June-July per Lummis. End of May per Moreno. August recess. The hard deadline that resets everything. The consequence of missing the window. Senator Lummis. Waiting until at least 2030 for another attempt. Senator Moreno. Mind-bendingly slow. Missed Memorial Day last year. Cannot miss this window. The enforcement infrastructure. Project Crypto. Already built. SEC and CFTC ready to move. Implementation in weeks, not years. The fair shake cannon. $193 million in political consequence aimed at every senator who helps this bill die. And the institutional capital. Patrick Witt confirmed trillions sitting on the sideline. $147 trillion in global institutional AUM with mandates that change the day the statute is signed. The last major obstacle was removed last night. The markup is scheduled for as early as 9 days from now. The XRP supply is at a 7-year low. The institutional positioning is documented and building. The enforcement infrastructure is already built and waiting. What is running now is a calendar. And the calendar, for the first time in this bill's entire history, is running in the right direction. This is XRP news flow signals. Data, not hype. Every time. Disclaimer, nothing in this video constitutes financial advice. All information is for educational purposes only. Always conduct your own research and consult a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.